Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ranking Member. First, of course, like so many of my colleagues, I want to extend my thanks to you for the work that you do, not just in this last horrendous wildfire that we dealt with, but all throughout the year and all the time. You all are prepared and ready to serve the people of this country, and for that, we're most grateful that you extend not just yourselves, but your families and your lives to support us and to help us, and we're all really grateful for that. You know, I think this is very interesting because the other committee that I'm on is the House Agriculture Committee, which has purview over the U.S. Forest Service. In October, we reported out a bill that is subsequently adopted by the House in November, the Resilience Federal Forest Acts. You're probably familiar with it. Mr. Fenton, one of the things this bill would do is to change the way wildfire fighting efforts are funded, ending a process called the borrowing by allowing now federal agencies to tap into disaster funds from FEMA when wildfire suppression budgets have been exhausted. I understand that one of the concerns with this approach, and I'm wondering if you share this concern, is that since funding requests for the Disaster Relief Fund are based on 10-year average of costs, fires could, don't kill me for the pun, burn through the fund right away, and there may not be enough left for other disasters, such as tsunamis or earthquakes or hurricanes that have occurred most recently. In your view, would the way this approach work fix the issue that had been in the past? And do you share concerns that this would end up being less money for other disasters? And how would you fix this?
Well, so let me start with right now underneath the Stafford Act, we pay firefighting costs for all fires on state and local land, and so all the costs for the Northern California fires and a good portion of the cost for the Southern California fires that were on state and local land, including all the firefighting resources, regardless of local, state, or federal, that fought those fires on those lands, we're reimbursing those costs right now. So what you're talking about specifically fires on federal lands and to fight those fires on federal lands. The Stafford Act was focused on helping state and local governments during events, so it would be a change from that. And to further complicate it, as you pointed out, underneath the Budget Control Act, based on the 10-year history and the amount of funding that it would take to fight those fires on federal lands, it wouldn't leave sufficient funding, and we'd probably be coming and asking for supplementals every month, especially as we got later into the fiscal year. So we need to look for a way to do that outside of tapping into the Stafford Act. I think the Stafford Act has been pretty clearly up till now focused on supporting state and local governments, and I think that should be the continued priority, and we should look at something outside of the Stafford Act to support the Forest Service and their requirements.
But now you haven't said whether or not you agree with being able to tap into the FEMA funding in other areas is going to be beneficial for fighting fires, or from if you putting on your hat from when you were directing FEMA, is this a concern that you would have with knowing that we're taking care of firefighters from our supplemental right now, but that means we're going to have to tap into other funds elsewhere? And not knowing if Congress is going to be willing to give you those supplements into the amount that you need.
Right. So I'm not sure I fully understand your question, but I think it's, if we tap into the Stafford Act specific funds, it's underneath the 10-year average. It's kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Right.
Therefore, we have to look for another way, and we'd be happy to sit down and have a discussion. And I know Administrator Brock Long has done that and would be happy to entertain those discussions of looking for other ways to meet those requirements on federal lands.
Have you talked about lifting the cap on the amount of funding that would be there?
Well, my understanding is the cap is from sequestration, and it's a cap imposed.
You're not supposed to say the word sequestration around here.
I'm sorry. So it's a learn something every day. It's a so the cap, as I understand it, is an imposed cap.
Right.
Let me change my word here.
It's just a dirty word, isn't it?
It's an imposed cap that would take a change in order for that to be lifted. So it's something that we couldn't internally do on our own.
Okay, thank you. My time has expired. I yield back.
Okay, thank you.